and dance and art.
Rhonda Howell is like many mothers, wishing time would slow down as she cherishes every minute
What's the opposite of big?
with her 6-year-old son, Luke.
You know, peanut butter.
But these everyday moments with her family are even more important for this Wake Forest native. Rhonda has stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, also called MBC, a guaranteed death sentence.
My only goal in life at this point is to live to see him grow up, and so that he doesn't have to grow up without a mommy. And unfortunately, 40,000 women and men in the United States die every year from metastatic breast cancer. And statistics, while old, give me 2 to 3 years to live.
Rhonda is a ferocious fighter. This past July marked 3 years from when she got her grave diagnosis.
In my case, it has metastasized to my bones. It's in my ribs, it's in my spine, it's in my hip, and it's in my left femur. And it has metastasized to my liver.
She was already a survivor, beating early-stage breast cancer in 2013. This new, more dire diagnosis shocked her.
I think a large part of it is just lack of knowledge. Like I said, myself included, a lot of women are told that they're cancer-free after they beat early breast cancer, and they are not told that they have a 20 to 30% chance of metastasis. And so they feel like it's not going to happen to them because they beat it, they're cancer-free, and they can go on with their lives, like I said, myself included. So it was a huge shock when I became metastatic. And I get to see them in person.
Now she's making it her mission to raise awareness about MBC and raise funds for more research.
We need research, not ribbons.
She has taken her message to Washington,
1 in 3.
along with other women and men fighting this disease.
Stage 4 needs more.
This is part of Metavivor's annual Stage 4 Stampede.
Laura, Stein, Sally.
I feel honored to be invited to speak. I feel honored that these women entrust me to be another mouth to voice their message.
Metaviver is a nonprofit that gives 100% of donations and proceeds from fundraisers to Stage 4 research.
There's a frustration in the metastatic breast cancer community that there's not enough funding going to metastatic breast cancer.
The silent message this group brought to Washington rang loudly on the Capitol lawn, pausing to remember the 113 people who die from metastatic breast cancer every day. It's an especially emotional time for Rhonda and her mother, who's there for support.
It's even harder for me with my mom here. I mean, I love that my mom came to support me. She's a great mom. But my mom was crying, laying on the ground, thinking about me dying. And I'm 38, and I have a 5-year-old son, and the thought of my son growing up without me is devastating, and the thought of her losing and having to bury her daughter is devastating to her.
These warriors are channeling that emotion to hopefully make a difference.
And we have a 1 o'clock appointment.
They took their message inside as they met with lawmakers to stress the need for more funding. This past April, Rhonda hosted the first ever Triangle Masquerade in Raleigh.
The $1,300 bin sold out at $1,200.
Hundreds attended, raising more than $100,000.
So it's important that we support events like this so that we can guide the donations to where they want to be, to where they're going to actually save lives.
Guide the money specifically to MBC. Right now, there's somewhat of a divide in the breast cancer community about how funding is directed.
A lot of the women and myself that are fighting this disease really feel strongly that metastatic breast cancer is not well understood. There's pink ribbons, and everyone is aware of breast cancer, and everyone is aware of early detection is a cure, but the problem is it's not a cure. I caught my breast cancer early. Unfortunately, the cancer metastasized 2 years later to my liver and my bones. So clearly, my early detection was not a cure. I am still going to die from this disease.
Show me this graphic here.
When most folks hear pink, they think Susan G. Komen. Pam Cole is the executive director of the North Carolina Triangle to the Coast chapter.
Because they raised enough money that they're going to get the
That's a really good idea, actually.
She's also a metastatic breast cancer patient.
It's a challenge, because I am every estrogen-positive breast cancer woman's worst nightmare, right? So how do I, as the executive director of Komen, talk about this in a way that is inspiring, hopeful, and real? And I find that I'm still trying to figure that out, because I can see sometimes when I see a lot of women dealing with breast cancer every day. You know, that's what I do every day. And whether they're 5 years out, 1 week out, 20 years out, when I tell my story, I see the look on their face. And so how do I make that story mean something? And hopefully it will. I keep talking about vigilance and trust your gut.
She recognizes Susan G. Komen is trying to bridge the gap one research dollar at a time.
And Komen National 2 years ago announced a new focus in this area, and that we're spending a lot more of our funding, a percentage of our funding every year on metastatic breast cancer, because that's the breast cancer that kills.
Susan G. Komen announced last year they funded $31.7 million for 98 research grants with a focus on aggressive and metastatic cancer.
Research is our only hope. And that's what we've got to keep talking about, is the funding for it, the clinical trials, encouraging people to be part of clinical trials, because that's the only way we're going to know if the therapy and the research is working.
And could drop the cells in one at a time.
Dr. Benjamin Vincent, an oncology physician scientist at UNC's Lineberger Comprehensive Cancer Center, has a goal of better predicting treatment response for those with what's known as metastatic triple-negative breast cancer.
I would like to cure metastatic breast cancer, not just me, but all the other researchers working in this area. And speaking as, you know, the father of a little girl, what a gift it would be for our generation to give our daughters and our granddaughters a world free of breast cancer.
He says grants like the one he got from Susan G. Komen help with his work. But finding a cure is a group effort.
So I'm glad that worked out well.
Dr. Vincent and Dr. Carrie Anders from the UNC Breast Center meet regularly to discuss how patients are doing on the trial.
One of the most rewarding or a rewarding aspect of my career is working with preclinical scientists and providing the partnership with our talented scientists here at Lineberger to be able to truly translate what they're doing in the laboratory to our patients, because that's the ultimate goal, is to learn things in the laboratory, bring them to the patients, and ultimately impact their outcome.
Rhonda doesn't have the luxury of waiting for new breakthroughs, though. Like many others fighting metastatic breast cancer, she's hoping the drugs that are available now can buy her more time with her son.
So your scans looked great.
Yes. About every 9 weeks, she goes to the Duke Cancer Center for a scan to see if her medicine is working.
Hey, sweetie. I got good news. Everything has shrunk.
Good news for today. She knows not to take it for granted.
It's a challenge to face it with a positive attitude mentally. And personally, I deal with anxiety. I deal with anxiety over not being able to live to see my son grow up.
Hypodense in the liver.
Rhonda's clock is ticking, but she takes it day by day.
Love you.
Being a vocal advocate.
That'll be great.
Staying as positive as possible.
Good job.
And of course, spending as much time as you can with Luke.
My hope is not to rob him of his childhood and to wait as long as possible to tell him that mommy might die from my cancer. Obviously, at some point down the road when I do IV chemo, I'm going to lose my hair, and we're going to have to explain that to him, that the medicine is going to cause mommy to lose her hair. But my goal is that he will be double digits before we have to tell him that mommy might not survive the cancer. But right now, mommy is doing good, and we haven't had to have that conversation.